Hello, I'm Josh Lowman, and welcome to the first episode of Alaska Filmmakers, a program dedicated to exploring the many talented individuals in the Alaska film industry. Over the next few weeks, we will be speaking to a variety of filmmakers and industry professionals and find out what inspired them to become storytellers. Today, we're joined by Alaska's liaison to the Screen Actors Guild, or SAG, Ron Holmstrom. Ron, how's it going?
Good to be here.
Great, thanks so much for being able to join us today. I'd love to start with just talking a little bit about you. What brought you into acting?
Well, it was a condition of my parole, Josh. No, actually, I started out, I was ski bumming. I took a semester off of college and went ski bumming, and I was always, a singer, so I was got a job as a folk singer. And instead of going back to college, I got hired by an outfit in Los Angeles, a musical theater group, to come down and sing with them and write comedy. And then one thing led to another, and I never got around to going back to school and ended up getting all these jobs, so just stuck with it. It was an accident.
So if you started in musical theater, what brought you to filmmaking, to SAG?
It was just a natural gravitation. I was, the group was based in California, in Los Angeles. And as I got more involved in Los Angeles theater and got to know people, it just goes hand in hand with the film industry. It's many films are cast right off the LA stage.
What sort of training did you have? Was it all just practical, or?
Well, at first it was. I studied with Jeffrey LaBeouf. Oddly enough, it's Shia LaBeouf's dad, and he was our artistic director at Crackers Organic Arts Ensemble, was the name of the musical theater group. It was so trendy in the early 70s. But he was from the Grotowski theater method, which is really physical theater. It's kind of comes out of the Stanislavski method, the Russian method. But that's where I started with it. And then I studied for a while with the great Zina Provendy, who was the MGM, head drama coach at MGM. But I must say most of it, except for those two, and most of it was on-the-job training.
What brought you up here to Alaska after spending all that time in LA?
My father and mother retired up here, and they came up here in the mid-'70s, and I kept coming up more and more. And I came up one year, '92, I came up to take care of my father who was dying. And I was in the middle of finishing a screenplay with a friend of mine. And just about the time that Dad died, we got the option, somebody optioned a screenplay. And I was going to pack everything up and go back to Los Angeles. My brother said, look, most of the stuff you're doing is writing right now. Why don't you just live here? And I went, wow. And I discovered this great, thriving theater community here and a fledgling film industry. And I fell in with a couple other Hollywood expatriates, Sandy and Jerry Harper at Cyrano's. So I just thought, it'd probably be some kind of a cut and pay, but I think I'm going to hang around here and see if I can make a living.
What moved you back behind the camera to writing and directing and everything else that you do?
I've always, ever since that first stint in musical theater, I've been a writer, and to some extent, because we did a lot of skit comedy. So a lot of the times the skits that I would write, I would direct. And as I learned more and more about filmmaking, working in film and television down there, I just kind of gravitated toward it. And I was hired to write a couple, I wrote a lot of, a starving actor in Hollywood, I wrote a lot of commercials, directed quite a few commercials. And I started getting work directing and writing industrial stuff. And so it just followed. And I discovered that, being kind of a lazy actor, that when you're directing, you don't have to learn all those darn lines.
Well, let's talk a little bit about SAG itself as the liaison here. How did you get into that? How did you become the SAG liaison for Alaska?
When the Film Incentive Program began up here, Dina Beatty, who's our executive director in Seattle, called me and she said, "There's a lot happening in Alaska. What's what do you know about that?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to keep my finger on the pulse." And she said, "We need a SAG liaison up there." And I said, "Great, let me know who it is." She said, "Well, it's you." They put my name in for election, and I was elected to the Seattle Council. And so that's basically how I started to work, really, as as an officer of the Guild. So since then, I've become a member of the SAG National Legislative Committee, and I was also put on the committee for it's called SAG Indy, which is really exciting for us Alaskans because it's This way I get to help with how SAG deals with independent filmmakers, which is really important for us because we've got, you know, a growing number of them.
How big is the SAG community up here?
There was less than a dozen here, and it's growing on the strength of having Whales and Ghost Vision and Christmas with a capital C that we did in Seward. We've gotten a few more members. A lot more members are now SAG eligible.
Can you explain what SAG eligible means?
SAG eligible means that you have done SAG signatory motion picture, and you get in on the what's called the Taft-Hartley Act, which is an act governing the unions from the 1930s, so that you become eligible to join the guild. Because to join the guild, you really have to have done, you have to be cast in a SAG motion picture. There are different ways to join outside. For instance, in New York, you can do a certain number of days as a SAG extra. You can work as a SAG stand-in. But for us in Alaska, for young actors in Alaska, or old actors in Alaska for that matter, you pretty much have to get cast in a film. It just happened for a couple of our more well-known and more experienced stage actors up here.
What about other SAG signatory productions, like if someone was making a short or even a SAG certified commercial? How would that work for becoming SAG eligible?
The Guild has made it really easy for young filmmakers and new filmmakers to become signatory. And it works really to their advantage. For one thing, when your film hits, your short film or your independent feature hits the film market, it lends an air of professionalism to your production.
What would you say to the local filmmakers who might be a little hesitant to going with SAG for fear of kind of increasing their expense?
Go to the SAG site, give me a call, or get in touch with me, and I can show you how easy it is to make it work and why it's to your advantage to make your project a SAG signatory. How has SAG helped your career? It's like a stamp of saying this person's a professional actor. There are a lot of casting directors, or a lot of agents, won't handle someone that's that's not already a SAG actor, because it shows that you've been pursuing your career. It's not just a fluke that you're trying to have some fun and play Hollywood. What are some of the other benefits of being a SAG member? The real benefit to the Guild, aside from all the fun stuff you get, like free movies and stuff for your collection, is just the fact that you've got representation. You've got some people that'll keep the producer to the contract, which most of them are more than happy to do. But you've got someone in your corner, the collective bargaining process, a contract that's been, worked and reworked for, well over 75 years now. We're an old union. The requirements of becoming a member, is it just getting your Taft-Hartley time in, or is there anything else that you have to do to become a member? No, once you're cast in a SAG film, then you're eligible to become a member. You don't have to join your first film. It's an opportunity that you can take advantage of, and you can join. Or you can just wait until your next film. What sort of resources does SAG have kind of out there to find out more about what they do? You can go to the SAG site. Like I said, www.sag.org, and it's a really well done website. You can go on there and navigate around and find out the answer to just about any question. For those of us in Alaska, we're part of the Seattle branch, which encompasses the Pacific Northwest, and Dina Beatty, our executive director down there, is a world of information, and she's incredibly excited about what's happening in Alaska with our incentive program, and she's willing to really help out the young filmmaker or the actor that wants to know more about SAG. So she's open for phone calls and emails, and you can contact her through the main website at SAG. Just go to the branches. What's that you have there? This is it's kind of the encapsulated form of the Film Contracts Digest from SAG. So it explains to, it's the SAG Indie, from the SAG Indie committee that I sit on. And it explains in here, there's a short film agreement, there's the ultra low budget agreement, but it just explains, and you can see how short a book is, or how short a booklet it is. It explains really simply and easily understood what it takes to become a SAG signatory for whether it's a 5-minute film or a full-blown feature.
Becoming a signatory, is that something where you can do it project by project? Do you have to agree to do SAG projects from now on, or say this project is going to be a SAG signatory production, or? Well,
it's kind of how you form your company.
Okay.
If you form, as many of us do, or many filmmakers do, will form an LLC, or form a corporation for their film. Most people do that. Mm-hmm. So that film will become signatory. You'll do it under a SAG contract. If you're a commercial agency or a production company, you might want to become SAG signatory, which means that your company becomes SAG signatory, which means that you use SAG actors in your ongoing projects.
What are the big benefits to filmmakers to becoming a SAG signatory?
The advantages to the filmmaker, I think, are it gives you an air, it gives your project an air of professionalism, and it also you have certain rules that everybody that's working, all the actors that are working for you, will abide by.
Speaking of all our acting community that we have now, what would you say to them, kind of going forward now that we are seeing all this kind of stuff coming up, and to let them know what SAG is going to do for them as this begins to grow, what their best options are as we see more and more productions?
I guess the best thing is just contact me, contact Dina, and go to the site and look up, what we do for, what the Guild does for all of us.
I know one question some of our local actors might have is, in joining the Alaska or Seattle chapter, will it carry over to places like New York and Los Angeles?
Yeah, we're a national group, actually international. We have what's called a global Rule 1, which is that you only do SAG films. But no, the answer to that is once you join the Guild, you're in the Guild, and you're protected wherever you go, whether it's New York or New Orleans or Los Angeles or Kodiak. Once you're a member, and you just keep your dues paid, and that just you can work anywhere in the world under a SAG contract.
You said you're protected, and I think that's kind of one of the important things about SAG. Can you talk a little bit about the protections that SAG gives you on set?
For one thing, you're not going to be asked to work 20-hour days. There are certain restrictions, like you have to be fed. There's a certain time when you can't go hours without a meal on the set. You have to have a certain turnaround so that you don't work they expect you to work an 18-hour day, go sleep furiously for an hour, and then come back and be brilliant again. So it just the rules from SAG really protect the entire production, I think. And there are certain rules that are ironclad, like how children are treated. SAG is very adamant about children being treated well on the set. It makes for a better workplace. It protects the actor from being used or overworked, and it protects the producer from getting a product that he or she won't be satisfied with.
Thanks again, Ron. Well, that's all we have time for today and this episode of Alaska Filmmakers. We'd like to thank our host, Out North Theater, and Ron Holmstrom for taking the time to speak with us today. If you would like more information about the Screen Actors Guild, or if you'd like to contact Ron directly, you can find the link and the contact information on our website, www.alaskafilmmakers.com. Thank you for joining us, and remember, everyone has a story to tell.